Join us on another exciting episode of the Airgun Geeks podcast. In this episode, shh, we're talking silencers with the Wisconsin Airgunner and Tom from Impulse Air. Tom is going to show us some of the amazing products Impulse Air has brought to the airgun world, and PJ is going to give us an update on everything, well, PJ.
And welcome to another episode of the Airgun Geeks podcast. As everyone can see, we have someone new. But first, Bill, how you been doing?
I've been fantastic, Pat. It's been definitely cooler here in California lately, and I actually have not been out on the range in a while. I need to get out there and blow the dust off my trigger finger. But I've been hard at development. I had a couple of videos that have released over the last couple of weeks on stuff that I've had in development, getting ready to release, and you design the product, you figure out how you're going to make it, and then you got to do a freaking YouTube video because you don't have PJ around to do that work for you. So you do what you got to do, and I have to say I was really happy that when I released the hour meter. And the hour meter can be used on any small compressor, and it can be AC or DC, 12 volts all the way up to 277 volts. Any voltage, you just put it in parallel with the motor, and it'll tell you how long you ran the thing for. So it's pretty agnostic. But the versions that come for the GX CS3 and CS4 are literally plug and play. You literally unplug the motor, plug my harness in, and stick the thing on the case, and it's installed. And then today I launched the flow indicator for the CS4, which, I had one guy in the comments, he was like, well, wouldn't it be much simpler if you just designed a paddle wheel and put that in the knob? And I'm like, no, actually, because I went down that road initially and I found out that wasn't the way to do this, because there isn't actually enough energy in the water flow. It's a little tiny aquarium pump in there. So there's not that much energy there. And I found the light actually, first of all, it looks cool as all get out. So if you really want to bling out your CS4, it's a pretty slick option. And I went, of course, as I'm prone to do, I went way over the deep end, right? Just my feet were sticking out of the rabbit hole. And I got some ultraviolet, kind of like black light LEDs, and I used those. And then I found a company that makes UV reactive dyes for water. So the water changes color when you hit it with the UV light. So that was pretty cool. I got some cool pictures and stuff like that, but I didn't want to release those because everybody will be asking for the UV LED, and it's not quite ready yet. But anyway, so lots of stuff been going on here in the Target Forge workshop. I got a letter the other day from my friend PJ, the Wisconsin Airgunner, and he called me Bill Hot Rod Rule, and that absolutely cracked me up when I saw that handwritten on an envelope. So thank you for that, PJ. You definitely brightened my day.
You're welcome.
But yeah, it's been kind of crazy here getting all that stuff done, and I do need to get back behind the trigger because one of these days I'm going to have to challenge either Patrick or PJ in a shooting competition, and I'm just not in my top of my game right now, so I gotta get up there.
Maybe that's part of my plan. Keep you rusty.
Yeah. That could be. So Pat, I heard I sent a special investigator down to Florida to find out what actually got the Wisconsin Airgunner to leave Wisconsin. And it was troubling what I learned. I found out that it turns out it was a conspiracy by the squirrels in Wisconsin. They got together and they funded a GoFundMe to buy off Donnie, to get Donnie and Yolanda to make PJ go to Florida because they're like, you're tearing us a new one up here. You need to get the hell out of here. So, I don't know, Patrick. I'd watch out for those iguanas down there because I think all these animals are in cahoots, man. I'm not sure how it's going to work out for you, but if the squirrels can get rid of PJ, man, watch out for those iguanas, Pat.
Well, I have to say, I think they've talked to the iguanas
Oh,
because every time I go out iguana hunting, I can't find any. And
mm,
then finally, I had to go to a church,
mm.
and let's just say the Lord provided me with an opportunity, and I got to take one iguana, but six of them got away because they were like gone. And I'm like, wow. And I did that with the infamous Notos.
That's awesome.
Yes, yes. So either they're afraid of me or they knew I was coming. One or the other. I
Ah,
don't know. But yeah, no, it's exciting what's going on down here. I'm glad because PJ trailblazed and I followed right behind. I'm like, oh, this looks like a paved road. But I just kept going. He stopped a little north. I went about an hour and
Yep.
a half farther south because just wasn't hot enough where
mm.
he was at. So I says, what the heck, At least I have his six. Sorry, dad joke. But no, it's exciting. And as everyone noticed, PJ joined us. I'm really excited, PJ, that you took time out of your very busy schedule to sit down with the Airgun Geeks, Bill and I, and catch up and find out what you've been up to.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem.
So how do you keep up with it all, PJ? I mean, you've got this whole persona of the Wisconsin Airgunner to keep up. You are a wonderful husband to an absolutely wonderful lady. And you've also got this whole Donnie FL gig going on. Maybe tell our listeners what the average day is like for PJ now that he's living the leisurely life in Florida.
Yeah, well, as an actual retiree,
You don't have this retirement thing down pat yet.
yeah, I don't know. I've known some guys who have said they're busier after retirement than they wind up being working. But I get up around 6:15. I go to a I don't think I want to name by name. I go to a purple gym. I spend about an hour on the treadmill and get home to shower, throw some, the uniform of the day, which is, typically an Airguns t-shirt and a pair of shorts, and get to the shop around 9 o'clock. A lot of days start off answering customer emails that come in overnight, asking questions about all things Donnie FL, Saber Tactical, PCP Kong. I expect over the next couple of months, the Karma Airguns questions are going to start rolling in a little bit faster than they are now. And depending on what we've got going on, whether it's product testing or a video for the Wisconsin Airgunners channel or a video for Donnie FL or Saber Tactical, filming, editing, usually done around 5 o'clock, and it's home to spend some time with my wife. The big change is I went from really 3 jobs plus my channel to 1 job, and I get to do some channel stuff, kind of during that time. So I actually feel quite a bit more relaxed in my role here, though certainly I'm keeping myself busy, but definitely feel some of that. I guess I have to say this: my professional career was often about issues of life and death, and if not that, liability, and preparing people to step into that world. It's nice that the focus of what I'm doing is about fun and recreation and helping people enjoy. And there's certainly people like Patrick who have a vocation related to pest control, so it's business for some folks. But most of the people who are involved in airgunning, this is somewhere between relaxation and a passion. And so nice to
Obsession.
have the
Some.
majority say, yeah. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw you were looking at me when you said that, but I think a change in, I'm still doing some educational kind of content, but it's not centered around life and death, with the possible exception of some squirrels and iguanas and a couple other critters like that. So it's been a really, really positive change for me, and I'm really enjoying every minute of it.
Well, that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah, couldn't agree. Yeah. It's a big change down here from Wisconsin.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was an interesting summer from a weather standpoint, but I feel like I got pretty well acclimated to it. I don't know that you ever get like used to the humidity, but when you go see the mouse, you learn to walk through the shops.
Most definitely.
And there's a lot of places where, like, well, if you stand in the line for Pirates of the Caribbean for 45 minutes, at least a half hour of that's air conditioned. So you find ways to adapt.
Definitely.
And
maybe that's the
it
next
was
application for AI is planning your trip to Disney World so that you can make sure that you're in the AC at the right time during the day.
right. We went back to Wisconsin for the weekend. It was unfortunately for a funeral, but it was good to see people and pay our respects. But I woke up on Sunday morning and there was frost on the windshields of all the cars in the hotel parking lot.
Time to go.
I came back here and walked outside, and sun's kind of starting to go down. It's an absolutely gorgeous 71 degrees with a little bit of a breeze, and just I can sit in this, like, this is it is wonderful right now. I love this weather.
I will second that motion every time, PJ.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I was 50-ish years in Wisconsin. I paid my dues.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Somebody had posted, oh, leaves are changing. And I thought to myself, there was probably at least 2 weekends every fall, and usually more like 3 weekends, that were completely devoted to dealing with falling leaves.
Yes.
The entirety of Saturday and Sunday was some way, shape, or form. As long as the sun was out, you're pretty much out there raking, bagging, mulching, dragging, dumping, all the various things. And of course, they'd fall in shifts. Like one weekend, the pine trees would go. And so you'd have to deal with that. If you've never raked pine needles, I'm just gonna say you're lucky and don't bother. Then the maples go, and eventually the elm tree's like, hey, I got something too for you. And that guy typically dumped in the summer or in the spring. So I don't have that responsibility here right now, and I don't miss it at all. So there's still a lot of Wisconsin in my heart, and still a lot of people that I miss and love there. There's that's not ever going to change. But I do like the environment, and loving the weather right now.
Awesome.
Agree. Yeah, the one thing we miss, PJ, is apple picking. But I says, I'll get a branch and hold it, and you can pick it, I'll deal with the weather and dream about that. So
yeah.
But
and you can get a relatively cheap flight to an awful lot of places from down here.
Yes.
Especially if you're traveling on the back side of stuff. If you can, people will pay to go in the wintertime from Wisconsin to Florida. There aren't a lot of people down here who want to go back on those return flights. So sometimes those tickets, there are some cheap tickets to be had, but sometimes they're really cheap because they're just trying to put some bodies on a plane.
Correct.
So you could go up and pick an apple if you wanted to in Ohio.
That's the message and all that.
That's the message. All right.
Yeah. Come listen to the Airgun Geeks podcast and listen to guys talk about up north.
So this episode is about the quietness of an air gun or the loudness of an air gun. We want to discuss suppressors on how you can tune. That's been a big thing over the past, we'll say year, pretty much the year of 2023, because of modular and segmented suppressors now. Before we were throwing whole cans on and trying different ones and tone testing and trying accuracy things with this and with that. But now a really cool one is the new Donnie Ryu. And I was quite impressed on the one you did with your raw micro and how you broke it down and what it actually did. So tell us a little bit what about that new can that he's got coming out, that's out actually, and how it works and why is it special?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the modular design of it. Our traditional, or I've been in the shop kind of calling it the legacy moderators. Those were built around a monocore design. That was Donnie's original design. He and I've talked a lot about, the history of what he's done in terms of designing. There was actually a time where he was going to dollar stores and buying, curler inserts and doing stuff like that. And he over time refined that to I think really an excellent moderator that did a good job of reducing report, and in a lot of cases would help an air rifle to perform more precisely.
Mm-hmm.
For actually years, anytime I've brought a new air gun in, I've had a selection of the correct caliber moderators, and I would run through the whole family of them, and basically, I like to push it as far in terms of distance when I'm doing this. I like to push it as far as I can without environmental factors being a wild card factor, because I think that's now you're into two variable testing, and it invalidates things. So in a lot of cases, I've been doing this testing between 30 and 35 yards, and then I'll try and validate it at like 50. But usually the validation's on a separate day because you got to get the weather for it. But I would run through every moderator I had that was, caliber appropriate. And I found that there was always a winner. There was always one that it shot best with. And I think the other thing to note, if anybody's going to try it at home, and I actually super encourage you to try it at home, you do have to, shoot more than one group, because there are some numbers out there that, start getting into statistical probabilities and how many groups do you need to shoot in a row before you can really say, there's something. I typically, for this kind of testing, will shoot 5-shot groups, and I'll shoot at least 4 of them in any one condition. So I'll do, 4 back to back to back to back, I think is 4 groups with moderator A. Then I'll switch to moderator B, 4 groups, moderator C, 4 groups, and keep going. If you're lucky and you can do all that in one day because the weather's pretty much the same, you really definitely start to see some patterns, and you can see some. The example you're asking about, if anybody watches the video, when I put the Ryu on the Micro Hunter, mine's in 177. It didn't like the Ryu as the Ryu ships with 3 baffle segments in it. Just didn't like it. It shot way better without it, and you put just 2 segments on, it was like, oh my god, it's like a whole different target that you're you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So
My
that's
Catran
where
pistol was the same way. My Catran
yeah.
pistol was exactly that way. Two segments, it worked great. One segment, it was okay. Three segments was not very good at all, but two
Yep.
was magic.
Yeah. And that's a combination of, there's I think in anything, a law of diminishing returns, right? That's what they call it, a law. You're in the case of the Ryu and the Yokozuna, instead of that monocore that we had been producing, you're now actually shooting through a baffle into a chamber, and then through a baffle into a chamber, and each baffle is designed to channel air away. And there's a point at which there's really nothing else to channel away. Yes, there's air in there; it's not creating a vacuum, but there's not really anything more to do. So now you're just making it pass through another metal housing. And at some point, you're just not going to get any more benefits out of it. And my belief, I can't, of course, I don't have the technology to actually see this happening. My belief is you go too far and it has a negative impact on the consistency of the direction of that pellet coming out the barrel. And that when you see that downrange in an increase in the size of the group that's impacting, and most importantly, impacting consistently on the target. You see it over and over and over again. You might occasionally get a really great group, just like you might occasionally get a really bad group. But when you look at like 4 groups, and it's like, holy cow, all 4 of these are better than the best group in this other condition. That's just a plain observable change.
Agree.
So, why do companies want to come out with modular moderators? I think because there's more of an acceptance. I remember, when Chris Turk and I were talking about stuff with harmonic tuning of barrels, and then FX came out with the harmonic tuner. There were people who were like, yeah, I can see why that would work. And there were people like, no, you guys are full of it. That it doesn't have any.
Yeah.
It's just physics. It's a thing. And the question is how much can we harness it? This is another way.
And we didn't invent that in the airgun world, right?
No,
that came to us. That was in the past, in the firearm world years ago.
Yeah, long enough ago that the patent expired.
Right.
Browning had a patent on it years ago, pre-80s, I think, or in the 80s.
I have a series of books that a friend gave to me, who is one of the most talented gunsmiths that I worked with and trained under for a long time. He builds bench rest firearms, and some of his guns start at $10,000 and go to $20,000 with custom paint and all of that craziness on them. But, I got this series of books from him, and it was called Gunsmith Kinks. And what it was a collection of little snippets collected over many, many years from old firearms guys. And, there's one piece in there that talks about this one gunsmith somewhere in Arkansas or whatever. And I'm sure he was very typical of gunsmiths all over the US. But he was known for his technique for accurizing, and he wouldn't tell anybody what it was until he was practically dead. But he would take a barrel and he would trim 10 or 15 thousandths of an inch off of that barrel. And then he would crown it, and he'd take it to the range and he would try it. And, essentially what he was doing is he was hunting for that node, right? The same thing we're doing with a nice, easy adjustment. It cracked me up when guys, I invented a barrel tuner. Well, you've adapted it. Bravo. That's great. But like the moderators that we talk about, and it was kind of funny when I started preparing for this episode. I found some interesting, very polarizing points of view on what it should be called. Should it be called a silencer? And the answer from the people who really care about this is absolutely it should, because Hiram Maxim, when he originally patented that invention, he's the one credited with bringing that to the world. He called it a silencer. So based on that, people are saying the correct term is silencer. You can water it down or color it whatever way you want to, call it a moderator. But I think in the airgun world, we like to call it something other than that, so that we don't get looked at with the same point of view that the firearms guys get scrutinized with. So we call it a moderator or a lead dust collector or
lead dust collector,
whatever it is, But yeah, that was absolutely fascinating to read through all of that stuff. But yeah, I also love I love the look of some of these new moderators with the the color keying and the contrast and all of that stuff. I think that's really awesome. And some companies are really pulling out all the stops on the color availability, and I think that is absolutely cool, because that really gives us people who like really tricked out looking guns another lever to pull that doesn't really cost us any more money.
Yeah, and we've talked about that internally, and don't be shocked if you see something colorful. There's a number of different ways that it could happen, and we've played around a little bit with we've got a laser engraver in our shop, so we've played with a couple of designs and are just trying to figure out how to manage inventory and what's available through our dealer network. And we find ourselves in a spot where we're as you guys know, the airgun industry is a global industry, right? Forget about where things are produced, they're sold globally too. And in some parts of the world we get this criticism for, well, you're so expensive. And it's, you guys are old enough, remember buying an import album? I remember trying to chase down a copy of an AC/DC album that just was not released. They were on Saturday Night Live and they played Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, and that song blew our mind, but it was not released on a US album. Like, they played it here, but it wasn't released on anything. It wasn't on their latest. I think we bought, between my 5 or 6 friends, I think we bought 5 AC. Like, we bought everything that was in the catalog. We listened to all of them because it was live TV. You couldn't go back and look at it. They didn't have a super script on it telling you what the song was. So we're like, well, it could be this song. Let's buy this album. We bought all these albums. We're listening to it. Love the music. Absolutely love the music, but couldn't do it. So
that's effective marketing right there.
Yeah. So now we're like, actually, kids, right? I don't know if we were 12, 13, something like that, walking down to 1812 Overture Records. Like, you got to help us find this song. They played it on Saturday Night Live. It's got to be out there. But it turns out it was an import. So, I don't know, at the time, I think an album was $6 or something like that. We're talking about late 70s. And it's like $24 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
It's an import. It's got to, they're not sending, there's no distribution network for that. It's a one-off purchase. And that's the challenge that we face, is we have these customers who love our products all across the world. And when we make something special, you hate to say, well, this is just for the US only. So we're trying to make sure if we're going to do something, that it's something that we can offer up. And that means working with our dealer partners in other parts of the world to do it. So I can't promise anything, but know that we fully understand and personally appreciate ourselves. That every once in a while you see something custom, little bling, a little color, and it really looks nice. But back to this idea of harmonic tuning, a lot of times people get hung up because some of the products that have been made are all about weight. Weight is part of it, and the center of gravity of that barrel is part of it, but the overall length of the barrel has a part to play in it as well. And if you look at Olympic rifles, whether they're fine work balls or on shoots or, whatever else anybody's shooting, pay attention to the muzzle on those. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the 22 long rifles or the air rifle, the 10-meter air rifles. Look at the biathlon rifles. It's coming up on biathlon season for folks who pay attention to such things. You will see on the end of all those rifles, they have a tube that's separate from the barrel. The OD is going to be a little bit bigger than the barrel, but those are all made to be moved, fore and aft, to just find the spot where that barrel is in harmony. And it's not just shifting the length or not just shifting the weight, it's finding a balance point between those two things.
Right.
And if you were to go talk about going down a rabbit hole, but if you ever looked at the possibility of ordering, like a new FWB competition rifle, the questions they're asking is, well, what size weight set do you want to get for the barrel? Because they're weighting all those barrels, plus they have that bloop tube on there, whatever you want to call it, to adjust the length. And that's what you now have the opportunity. And, I think you should run the moderator that works the best on your air rifle. I typically run something from Donnie FL because I have an interest in us. I work for the company, and I'm pretty transparent about that.
A guy.
I've never,
I've
never like hidden anything. And I've worked for him for some time now. So that's why I go in that direction. But if your rifle responds to something from Impulse Air, then I would expect that you would run that on your rifle. You should go with what works for you. I think we make a quality product that works really well, and we're doing everything we can to get it to people at a reasonable price. It's easier for us to do that in the US than it is, say, in the UK, where now we're back to the UK market has access to all these things that are being produced in the UK. And even though they've got some issues with trade with the EU, but they have, it's easier for them to get, have you guys ever even seen an HW moderator in a shop anywhere? I mean, not that we have tons of airgun shops, but
no,
I've never had an opportunity to try one. I would love to try one. I would love to sit down on a bench. I would love to sit down and run it up. I'll film a video on it. I think it'd be great, but I just don't have the opportunity because you don't see stuff like that. And we are the new kid on the block going in to that market.
Yeah.
So we have to explain why. Well, I can get this one from A, which has a great reputation over there, and it's only, $40 or 40 pounds, and well, okay, well, ours aren't that cheap over there. And, we have to bring them here. We do all our assembly here. Again, in terms of things that we're transparent about, we develop, design, prototype, and then because of the realities of the marketplace, we have our moderators made in China. They come back, they're assembled here and packaged here, and then they go out from here. So, we have basically 9 American families are supported out of our shop. We do a lot of work here in America.
Yeah.
But when we want to send something to the UK, got to here, assemble it here, and now ship it over there.
Right. And still turn a profit.
Right. Yeah. And now if we make, hey, we got custom colors, or however we would do that, can we get Sportsman's Gun Center to stock those so that the people over there aren't like, see that they don't like us, because we do, we love them.
Right.
Correct.
And I will say that I am absolutely in awe of what Donnie and Yolanda have built down there, and in no small part also leveraging PJ's efforts as well in this whole equation. They have built a really unique company that is, to a lot of people in the airgun world, they are the high watermark for quality and customer service. you really get the impression that somebody at Don EFL cares. Somebody at Don EFL gives a crap that you're happy. And you know, I want to make sure that the airgun world reflects that back to Don EFL. And you know, that's a very, very clear perception, I think, throughout the market space.
Yeah.
I thank you for that, Bill, because we do really work really hard on that. I mean, there's two of us who our first line job is to make sure those questions get answered, whether that's other dealers so they can better support their customers or customers directly. And you know, it's not just the Don AFL side, it's the Saber Tactical side and PCP Kong with the compressors we're doing. It's a big, I mean, it's clear there's two of us that it's our first job of the day is to make sure that, you know, stuff that comes in overnight, that people have answers to those things. We don't like that to hang out.
And I'd go one step farther. So those of you that haven't gone to a competition or something and met the Donnie tent, the culture that is in that spectrum, the Donnie FL team and the Saber Tactical team, it's like family. I mean, it's like we've known each other for years.
Yeah.
And oh, how have you been? And it's not just about business. It's how can we help you? How are you? How's the wife? And oh, by the way, we sell suppressors. Let's get your gun accurate because that's why you're here. You gotta just you have to come to a competition and see that, because we could talk about it all day. But you know, the first time I met Donnie, he's like, "How are you?" He invited me to his home. When I met PJ for the first time, it followed with you, PJ, in your line of work. I mean, we have a little bit of a connection, being brothers in blue and stuff, but it was like you don't even know me, and it's like we've known each other for years. And when I went to the shop and had that honor and meet everyone was so friendly and so helpful, and you get what you see and you see what you get. So it runs deep.
Oh yeah. Yep. I had the fortunate experience to be a stablemate to Donnie FL my first year at RMAC. They were my next door neighbors in the you know, at that time there was no big main tent at RMAC. There was a bunch of little pop-ups, and my little pop-up was right next to Donnie FL's pop-up. And I got to meet Yolanda and hang out and spend some time with her. And she got to hear me deliver the same freaking sales pitch over and over and over again. And they still brought me back jerky when they went to the convenience store, which I will never forget that. So again, big thanks to the Donnie FL team for everything they do for the airgun world.
Agree. Couldn't agree more. All right. Well, PJ, it's been an honor having you, and what I like to always do and always keep on doing as a tradition. So what are some final words that you want to give to the viewers now? This is exciting. Airgun Geeks has got a YouTube channel. And
I saw that. I actually was watching a couple of the videos a few weeks ago on the treadmill. I was like, okay, this is kind of a different format. And I had to make sure I had a good shirt on tonight because my wife bought this for me this year, the Chosen One shirt.
I hear the voice in my head. The cloth was chosen. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have to ask, have you seen Monday's release with Aiden Hansen?
I saw that it exists. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. I was traveling. After I got back, we actually had an opportunity to go up and meet with a law enforcement group up in Georgia. 14 chiefs of police and representative from the sheriff's department, and they have a county police department to boot. About 1 million jurisdictions serving about 1 million people. Just outside of Atlanta. I had an opportunity to go up and talk to them about air guns and what I thought their officers needed to know. So probably anybody listening to this podcast would understand that our industry has grown multiple years of multiple hundreds of percent growth, which of course means there's lots more product out there, which means not that air gunners are doing bad things, but just more objects in free space is going to equal more potential encounters.
Correct.
For law enforcement. There's some things that, you know, we take for granted, but, you know, like as an officer, if you weren't an air gunner, would you know that there's no way really to unload an air gun other than shooting it?
Yeah.
You can't claw that pellet out. You know, most firearms people, a lot of law enforcement officers are firearms people. What's the safest way to store a firearm? Bolt, you know, action open. It's not safe to store an air gun with the action open. I know people who've tested this over the chronograph. You're probably going to get about a 60% shot if your action's open and you trip the trigger. Probably going to get about 60% FPE going down that barrel. So, you know, somebody gets an idea that they can tap out a slug that's seated in a Air Force Texan 457, and that lets the, I'm not saying that that would happen on a Texan. I'm just saying if that shot from a bolt open position because it was impact, you know, like horribly dangerous situation. Stuff that
not to mention
particularly
wrecking your air gun because it's going to blow out that O-ring if it's got one.
Yeah, you're gonna have all kinds of problems. But you know, let's not lose a hand in the matter. So it was an opportunity to provide them with some important safety information. And then also, you know, law enforcement's under increasing scrutiny in areas of use of force. And I'm not the person who's going to argue that there shouldn't be scrutiny about use of force. I've been a use of force instructor for really 30 years in one way, shape, or form. And it should be scrutinized. But what that means sometimes in some jurisdictions is if an officer has to remove their gun to put down a wounded deer, which is the humane and right thing to do, that may generate an onerous amount of paperwork and scrutiny because in some cases policies and in some other cases laws have been written, you know, with this giant, let's cast a huge net, you know, because we're going to root something out. And so you have officers who are like, well, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do the paperwork. But well, what if you had a 25 caliber, you know, 30, 40 foot-pound air gun in the trunk of your squad that isn't a firearm and wouldn't maybe trip some of those policies? What if you have, what if you, Bill, in your area in California, what if you had civilian animal control officers who occasionally had to put something like that down? You probably aren't arming your animal control people, but could they carry, you know, appropriately trained and, you know, understanding how it works, limitations? Could they carry that with them? And then in those cases, so it's kind of a twofold, a little bit of you know, officer safety and what people should know. And I'll tell you that the room of people that I was talking to, I had you know, you're going to do something, you got to do a PowerPoint, right? But way more people were familiar with the Daisy Red Ryder than were familiar with the Giardini air gun that Lewis and Clark took across the country, which is a lot more reflective of modern air guns than that Red Ryder is. So I think it was an opportunity to open some decision makers up to a better understanding of what we're passionate about and understand and just know on a gut level, and create some awareness on that. So you know, that's when we talk about the company I work for, this opportunity came up, and you know, Donnie's first thing was, well, PJ go up there and do that. He knows those guys. Well, I don't know those guys.
Yeah.
But I do speak, I guess I do speak the language. So
you all look alike. You all know each other anyway.
Yeah. So it was a nice trip up, and got to meet some good men and women who are serving their communities, and hopefully provided some information that's going to make something better at some point. Probably can't do that all over the country, but it was nice to be able to do it, a little bit in our backyard, a little bit north from here. But it continues, from my perspective, it continues to be a very exciting time to be an air gunner. Companies are bringing out really, really cool and exciting things. You guys know how excited I am about the Red Panda coming out. We hope to have our final samples in December, and production is like rolling as that comes out. So
Nice.
those should be available through dealers, if not before the first of the year. For some dealers, just after the first of the year. We're
hopefully it shuts up the naysayers who are like, yeah, great, you just swept 3 of the biggest competitions in the world of air gunning and nobody else can own them. But it'll be so good when folks can just go buy that and then have that same level of excellence.
Well, we will definitely have to have a podcast on that, because that is a very unique fire air gun. It looks like a firearm.
Could you imagine,
but it's not.
PJ and Val and Thane, and the 2 of us all on the same fire would be out. That would
it's a round table.
That would be a hoot. Yeah, the Red Panda round table.
There you go.
And Thane has really worked so hard. It was so cool. I mean, I was with him at RMAC. I was with him at Pyramid Air Cup, and was with him really pretty much exclusively at EBR to support this effort. And we talk about Thane because he actually won all 3. Val was right in the mix, and honestly, if not for a mental error, would have beat him. I think
at PA Cup,
at the Pyramid Air Cup would have beat him. So Val's certainly no slouch when it comes to shooting. But to watch, I'm not up in Utah with them when they're doing their practice, but I know how much practice they did. So while obviously I have a vested interest in people being like, wow, the Red Panda is a really great gun. I shoot the Red Panda too, and it's a great gun. It really is. It really is impressive. And I'm certainly proud of what we're bringing forward. But you also have 2 guys who basically dumped a significant chunk of a year shooting to get to the point where they know that gun well enough that Thane was tuning on the bench to get it to where he knew it was going to shoot the best. And to have that level of understanding of how something, any machine operates, and so you can make those adjustments in a competition setting. I'm not talking about he was tuning on the bench like the day before in warm-ups. I'm talking about he was tuning on the bench like, okay, everybody go, and you got 25 minutes. And his first step is, okay, let me do a little tuning here. and just to, based on like what the wind was doing and where he wanted the gun to be sitting for those conditions. And, the amount of prep that both Thane and Val go through every single night before competition. It was really cool to have front row seat to watch something that has never been done. If we talk about the world of 100-yard bench rest, it's not like an ancient sport, that our grandfathers were involved in. We're talking about 15 years worth of this kind of competition, if that, at least at a big national level in the States.
The only thing that goes that far back in the firearms world, I think, might be the turkey shoot. Shoots were always a big deal. And they were bragging rights. It was pretty serious stuff.
But really cool to watch something that's never been done before just happen and unfold. And so I am super happy for Thane because he's a friend of mine. Proud of him as a teammate. Just he really put a lot into it, and it's the gun is something special. And he worked his ass off to,
So was the
to
shooter.
be in a position.
Yeah.
You know, there were other people shooting red pandas and didn't have the same, didn't have the same results. All their guns did well. I think everybody who shot one out in Ohio made the finals. I mean, that felt really good to be a part of.
Yeah, that's saying something.
But there are so many great air guns out there. Like, I'm in a position right now where I get to see a lot of stuff and get to handle a lot of stuff. And we are, as if you're just coming to air guns, you've absolutely stepped into a golden age of just tell me what kind of shooting you want to do, and somebody is making something super awesome.
And how much do you want to spend? You want to spend a little, I can get you something good.
Right.
You want to spend a lot, I can get you something good.
Yeah, I'm going out this Friday. My son's coming down, and we're heading south to an iguana hunt. We're taking the Nixons out. So we're going to shoot unregulated, dead simple. If we can't manage to hit them, those guns are absolutely rock solid, and we can just beat them, because there's I've no doubt I could throw those rifle. I mean, they're super simple, minimal O-rings, just nothing, like very little to go wrong on them, and they are accurate. But I've no doubt I could throw them in a canal and fish them back out and shake them off and just go. So yeah, there's something at every price point. The Avenge X is out now. I did my video on that one. My first video, I'll be a couple of videos in that series. Wow, that's a pretty nifty platform as well. Air Ventura's really done some good stuff there. I don't know if you guys have seen those yet, but
I've seen them a little bit.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
All right, PJ. We got a whole other podcast coming up again to talk about. We'll have to do something on the different levels of guns and what they can do, and then add a suppressor to them and those that come with it and without it. So, that's a definite thing. So, I want to thank you for your time, and your dedication to the hobby, and spreading the word in an honest way, in an easy way for the entry level or the geek can understand. Like I said about your episode with the micro hunter, and breaking down how the suppressor works and how you can tune and whatnot. So any words from you, Bill?
Again, I want to thank PJ for, number one, for all he's done to shape the face of law enforcement over the years, to obviously continue to have that input and that impact in that world as well, by bringing his knowledge of air guns out to the law enforcement world, and help them understand better what is and is not a threat to them or a benefit to them. I think is so important. So thank you, PJ, for everything that you do. And thanks to Donnie and Yolanda for everything that they do for the airgun industry.
And for the record, they say hi to everybody.
No. Yeah.
Almost forgot. Tell the boys I said hi.
Well appreciated. Well appreciated. All right. Well, thanks again, PJ, for coming.
You're absolutely welcome. Appreciate the opportunity to be on, as always. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Okay. Thanks, PJ. Well, Pat, it was fantastic to have some time with PJ again. The Wisconsin Airgunner always brings a little sunshine in your day. And, despite the controversy with the squirrels and them, reaching out to Donnie, trying to get him to move down to Florida and relieve the pressure on them, all that aside, I think PJ's in a good place. And I am indebted to him for all that he's done for not only the airgunning world, but also law enforcement as well. So, with that said, we've got a fantastic guest coming up, and it is Tom from Impulse Air, and Tom has some amazing content to share with us. And it's not just silencers; he's got some amazing slugs, some magazines, some soft goods. He's got some really nice leather bags for use for your air gunning, and I think him and Scout are on a path to create some really interesting products for our airgun space. So, with no further ado, let's roll that footage right about here. Welcome, Airgun Geeks fans. We have a very unique opportunity today. We are here to talk with the folks at Impulse Air. They make an amazing, it is actually stunningly beautiful moderator for our airgun world. And I don't know much about their product, and we're here to learn about them. So you guys, along with me, are going to learn from this gentleman, Tom, who is the owner, I believe, right, of Impulse Air. Yep. So Tom, if you would start by kind of telling us what you're all about and how you got involved in the airgun world, I think that would give us a good start.
So I got into the airgun world about 3 years ago, and it was, doing what you guys were doing, and it's watching videos online and just like going, wow, this is really cool. So went out and bought a couple of Hatsons and great shooting guns and really enjoyed them. And then we started stepping up and, we got into the FX brands, and it's like, wow, this is a Cadillac.
Right.
Now we're starting to shoot targets at a couple hundred yards. And so we, my son and I, Scout, who runs the show, we started playing around and designing products for the airgun world. So, the first one we came out with, we introduced in June of last year, so of 2022. So we're just a little over a year old now. So we came out with the first, I shouldn't say the first, but US made modular moderators.
Very nice.
So you can take them apart.
If I could pause you right there for a second. What keyed me in was you said US made. So you are doing all your manufacturing here in the United States?
Idaho. Yeah.
Even anodizing?
Yep.
That is fantastic. Thank you for that.
15 miles out. You bet. And we even only buy aluminum or US made aluminum.
That is amazing.
So we are and it's better too. You know, you have to be really careful of where some of your aluminum comes from.
Yeah.
So we only buy, usually Alcoa or Kaiser aluminum. So we started out with the moderator side, and we came out with 2 different sizes, and then we have 17, 22, 25, 30, and 35s now.
Very nice.
And you're
that covers the airgun market space pretty well.
You're going to see a 45 here really soon. So we started out with that. And then we got into slugs. So we have 22, 25, 30, and 35 caliber slugs, which we call, a hollow base or hollow body technology. So they're a massive hollow point. And we were just shooting our 35s with the Benjamin guys, and they shoot absolutely accurate in their guns.
Nice.
So
tell me, are you you're actually forming these here in the U.S. or?
These are a Swedge designed, but they are a U.S. manufacturer, made in Idaho slug.
Oh, wow. That is fantastic to hear.
All right. So from there, we started into doing some soft goods. So this is what we call Rob, which is a rear bag.
Yeah.
And this is Bob, which is you can wrap it around your bottle.
Right.
So that way it's always on your gun.
Yeah.
And when you're shooting out of your truck windows, you can lay this right on or go to a T-post. Some of the people who are shooting field targets have come up to us and said, we bought these and we love it for field targets because we can set it right up on top of our tripods or bipods, I guess.
Right. So do you see NRL users using this product or?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep. That's so cool.
Yep. And these are actually made in Idaho as well.
Wow. Extraordinary.
So from there, we've now created our own line of magazines so we came out with the impact magazines first, and we're going to, keep branching out from that. But it's a 100% machined magazine for the impacts, and they're in 22, 25, and 30 now. And then you can buy them in whatever color you want to accessorize.
So it's
For
not
heat
like
track.
the Model T where you can have any color as long as it's black.
We love
You
colors.
actually have some
Yep.
options. Yeah.
Yep. We
I
love
think that's
colors,
cool.
and our shooters love colors.
Yeah.
you
Heck
know?
yeah.
So we've grown from there. And then a couple months ago, we were looking at these. So this is the moderator that comes with your FX product.
Mhm.
It's empty. It sort of works, but we designed guts for it, and we're going to call it the Fix Kit.
And that's this right
That
here,
is
I'm
that right
guessing.
there.
Okay. So it uses the same baffle technology or similar geometry as your other product.
We
Looks-
actually did a little bit of redesign, so
Okay.
a little bit of different calculations to separate the kind of like the cycle and the frequency of how this works.
So are you using computational flow dynamics
We're using
to
SolidWorks Flow.
engineer these?
Mhm.
That's,
Yep.
that, my friends, is how you make a killer silencer, is getting to that level of understanding.
And Bill, I don't want to say this is the quietest one on the market, but this is unbelievable. This is really a game changer. And we're going to sell this kit because a lot of people have these.
Yeah.
And we've talked to people, it's like, I have 6 of them and I don't even know where some of them are at now because I don't use them. But for $99, you can get a kit and you're going to have a great sounding can. So they're only in 25 caliber. So you can shoot in your 25s, 22s, and 17s. $99.
So
back to the magazines, $99.
I want to ask you a question, and you're one of the few
Mhm.
that I have met in this world that could probably answer this question.
I'll try.
But when you looked at the computational flow calculations, what did you see in terms of using smaller calibers with your 25 sized baffles?
I mean, smaller size holes.
Yeah, well, no, like when you said you only make this in 25, which means you can use it with 25, 22, and 1.7. When you're shooting a 1.7 in this larger hole, how did that affect the dynamics inside the moderator?
It's actually kind of weird because you're not
Bernoulli is weird, so I get it.
you're not shooting the same amount of airflow either.
Right.
So the 17s in this sound phenomenal because you're not using as much air and as much energy as what you would on a 25 when you have it jacked up to 1,000 feet per second.
So I think what you're saying is that impulse of air is lower energy, and that gap doesn't matter at that point.
It doesn't matter as much.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. But if you have that smaller projectile and then you have this big ball of energy behind it, then you're going to start being louder,
Right.
and those gases, you're trying to stop those gases from going around the projectile.
Right.
And that's what this design actually does. And we've had so many people come to us, and we've been on the West Coast side because that's where we're at, is out of Idaho. And now that we're over here on the I don't know if you can call Ohio the East, but we're in Ohio, and a lot of people are coming to us. They're saying my gun has never shot better than when I put your moderators on. And then they start playing around with the different lengths because you can actually buy more baffles. And some guys are running 3 and they love it. Some guys are running 7.
So I want to share a little anecdotal story with you.
Okay.
I've actually been using another company's modular silencer. And what I found was that I was actually able to use it as a tuning aid for my barrel system, because not only does it change the weight, but you've got 2 levers you're moving there at the same time. You're changing the fundamental length and the weight. So that all works together as a system. You can't isolate it because they have to work together as a system. So to me, it's really, really cool. When I did that, I actually I noticed that there was a delta between with the moderator and without the moderator. And I was like, I wonder if there's something in here. There's a secret in here. And I started taking out stage at a time, and I found that sweet spot.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was definitely an aha moment for me.
Yeah, and we've designed our moderators very lightweight. Like this kit, the fixed kit is a little heavier than our standard moderators.
Mhm.
So your point of impact is shifting more with this from no moderator to this being on versus this.
Mhm.
And you can actually find that sweet spot. And I think weight has to do with it, and the back pressure that this is going to give you. Actually, there's a whole lot of
Dynamic.
tuning
Yes.
dynamics
Yeah.
that you can now play with.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So
That's so cool. So you've got the moderator side done pretty well.
Mhm.
You've got some soft goods. You got some killer magazines, which you need to come out with some for the Crown because that's what I shoot mostly.
it's already been on the drawing board.
And
Terra and Crown
and you've got your own slugs.
Mhm.
What is next for Impulse Air?
We're going to bring out the 45 cans and the 50 cans.
Nice.
We've already been talking to our friends over at Air Force and Benjamin now, and so we're going to come out with that. And then by the time we go through, 3 or 4 different companies and magazines,
Mhm.
we're going to be a pretty busy company. So
Heck yeah.
we're having a ball, and we ship all around the world now.
That is fantastic to hear. So, I mean, kudos to you and your son, who's off camera right now. But these guys are the stars of Impulse Air. And thank you for bringing what you do to the airgun world because it's pretty dang cool.
Oh, yeah. And Scout does most of the work.
Ah,
I'll tell you that right off the bat. So
is he an engineer by training?
he just graduated a year ago.
Where did he go to school?
Cuna, Idaho.
Ah,
So
the hotbed of engineering.
yeah.
I'm kidding.
So, and I'm not an engineer; I'm a designer.
Okay.
So I never graduated.
So you came from the industrial design world? Is that what you
I went to school to be a double E.
Oh, okay.
So, and your Airgun Geeks know what a double E is.
Oh, yeah.
Engineer.
Yeah.
And I was working at HP. At
You're
the
a
time.
Sparky.
I wanted to be, but I needed to touch things.
Yeah.
So I started getting into designing products and the whatnot, years ago. And then we got into air guns. So then let's design some products for the air gun side. So
That's so cool.
yeah. All
So you're manufacturing. Are you guys doing that? Are you vertically integrated? Is that material coming into you and
we're
you guys
sawing
are
up.
making it?
Yep, we're sawing it up and we're putting it onto our machines, and Scout's pushing the buttons throughout the day, and I'm
Fantastic.
reprogramming things at night. And,
Fantastic. So I just wanted to note for a moment that this young fellow is doing a remarkable job because there's hardly a tool mark anywhere on these products, and that is a remarkable achievement with CNC.
we have good Japanese machines. So we have Haas brands, which are U.S. made machines.
Right.
These are actually made on the Robo Drill, which are phenomenal. And then I don't know if you've ever heard of the brand Doosan,
Mhm.
but they make great lathes, and that's where all of this stuff is made. So
That's so cool. Well, Tom, thank you very much for sharing your story with the Airgun Geeks. And we wish you guys all the best. And if you're ever looking for a podcast to sponsor, we are the biggest podcast in the airgun space. And we would
is it the coolest podcast?
we'd love to have you. So thank you very much.
You bet.
Welcome.
Wow, Bill, that was another impressive interview with Tom. I don't know how you get these interviews with these people and such good video quality.
Oh, let me divulge my secret to you. There's this guy, right, holding my leash. His name is Pat. And he says, Bill, I want you to go interview this guy, and this guy. They said they would do it. And then I go and visit them and I say, hey, Pat tells me that I have to interview you. And he's like, Pat who? I don't know what you're talking about. And I have to explain it all over again. So, it's kind of like they get twice the sales pitch from the Airgun Geek staff. But in any event, that's how that whole thing goes. Pat sets them up and I come knock them down.
It's a lot like, being a farmer. Plant the seed, you come in, fertilize, and harvest.
Right.
So it's a quick recovery. But yeah, So one of the things is I didn't know that Tom, aka Impulse Air, had all these products.
Yeah.
And the most impressive part was that they're all made in the USA.
Yes. With U.S. materials.
That's correct. Where do you see that besides Target Forge back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
When you started out, that was very big.
Well, a lot of our stuff still is made
Yeah.
here in the U.S. At least the LEDs I use in our latest product probably weren't made in the U.S., but they were certainly assembled here by these two hands.
Yeah, one of the cool things is I love the names of his stuff. So like the Bob, the bag on the bottle, that is clever. And I want to think that might have been Scout thinking that up. Might be. Don't know.
Could be. We'll have to ask them when we get them on the podcast again.
Definitely. Yeah, I found that very interesting, and the way that Tom explains stuff is very it's very easy to follow. I found that to be very, very fascinating. He's good. You could tell he takes pride in what he's doing, and he knows what he's talking about.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Now,
I want to take a moment and mention that not one person, despite how popular our last episode was with the Aiden Hansen, no one has emailed in for their sticker yet. And that to me is quite distressing, because I know Bonnie is very sad that no one has reached out and put her in the running for this. So either no one is a fan of Patrick or I or Bonnie, or you all don't want to make it a choice. And the simple solution to that is email all three of us. That way we all get a vote, right? At least it shows that you guys are getting the message and that our email system works. So help us climb out of this hole, and do send us some love via the email bleep bloop system, and do get yourself a sticker in the mail, because we would love to sit around stuffing envelopes. It would fill our hearts with joy.
I agree. And with that, I want to thank everyone who's been subscribing to the YouTube channel and having downloads for the podcast. We do appreciate that, definitely.
Yes, very much.
So one of the other products that got me like really excited, because I have like so many of them, is that hollow suppressor that comes with all the FX guns.
Yep.
Okay, works great, but I was like, this could be better. And I've seen some 3D printed ones and whatnot, but now they make a thing called the Fix It. And it's an insert that's for 25 cal, up to 25 cal is what I should say, and smaller. And, I actually got to play with that at the Pyramid Air Cup. And like Tom said, it was surprisingly quieter than their main production line suppressor. So I wonder if that's due to a volume thing or the cup design. But regardless, for $100 on a suppressor you have already, to throw it in there, I thought that was cool, because they were thinking a little outside the box using what people have already.
Absolutely. And I think it is very much from a design standpoint. I think it has everything to do with the fact that the segmented suppressor has only the segments to rely on, whereas that one that goes inside the FX tube borrows from both worlds. It is a can, and it has the segmented chambers inside. So it gets two advantages in that suppressor design. So I think that's why it works so well.
Yeah. So, and another really big thing, that everyone, I hope they caught on, is that Tom, Impulse Air, if you would, they do all their own stuff, including their own anodizing, which I was like, really? So the quality is there because they got that passion. We need the
Scout is the one out there making the chips, right?
Really? Okay.
He's probably the guy running the stuff to the anodizer and this place and that place, getting all that work done, and then bringing it all back and packaging it and getting it out to you guys. So do the right thing and show them some love, because they really do make a very nice product. I haven't seen anything from them that said, oh, I would never buy this. Everything I've seen has been top-notch quality. both from a design standpoint and from a manufacturing standpoint.
Correct. And you can buy it at all different air gun shops for those that are listening and watching, or you can go straight to Impulse Air and order from them directly, which I thought was also a good option, because then you can, hit their about and learn about them themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it was exciting. It's nice to see a good American company.
Yep.
A father and a son. That's probably another big thing to bring up. That's a father and a son. That's 2 generations building something together.
Yep.
Which I think Scout will really appreciate as he gets older in life, that he had that opportunity to do that with his dad.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
it'll end up like Orange County Choppers, and they'll hate it. I hope not.
I hope not.
Neither one of them seem like they're that kind of person. So
no. So, but Bill, I think, since we were talking about like specialty stuff and how you can get all different colors and stuff, they were talking about with the with Donnie FL, they were looking to do that, and with Impulse Air. Did you do something, speaking of anodizing, with your Noto stuff?
I can neither confirm nor deny these rumors, Patrick. All I can tell you is that there is a build in the works for what I think is going to be one of the coolest Notoses ever devised. I know those are big words, but I think this one's going to be this one's going to have the cool factor turned all the way up to 11 for sure, and it's going to be a hoot. I really wanted to build one. I wanted one stock, and I wanted one because I was getting a little jealous of Patrick and his little creature he's creating down there to chase iguanas around with, and I wanted to see how far I could take the Notos build. So I am currently working on one of those, and I'm also working on a much improved method of removing the moderator.
Ooh.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm trying to do in the midst of this is take it off gently enough that I can actually put a threaded insert in the end of it and actually make it another moderator that I can try and test and move around from gun to gun. So I'm not sure how successful that's going to be, but I believe there's enough material in there for me to do it. And it could be interesting to see.
That is interesting. But that's what goes on in the crazy scientific workshop that you have. So
and believe it or not, I won't be resorting to a hammer and a screwdriver.
Who would do that?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Patrick.
Hey, it came off. Actually, I used the PVC cutter, so if anyone must know, don't do that because it broke the cutter, but it worked. That and everything else, hammer, chisel, no, I'm just joking. All right. Well, any final words for this episode, Bill?
If you have a GX CS4, please do check out my recent video on the flow indicator for that. And also, if any compressor that you have, whether it's AC or DC powered, it's important to keep track of how many hours you have on that, so that if you're need service, or it's time to change the oil or whatever it is, that you have an hour meter. If you look at all of the really nice compressors like Patrick's Power, he's one of those upper crusty people, with the nice stuff. It has one from the factory, so help us make those machines a little more traceable in terms of how many hours we have on that. And do order one of my stick-on or screw-on hour meter kits from the Target Forge website, because that's how we fund this stuff.
Agree. And remember to always subscribe, spread the word, and like always, stay geeky. Oh yeah.